Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Matt Mucci, Regional Director, External Affairs for AT&T Florida, and the moderator for the 10th Annual Mayors Roundtable. The Mayors Roundtable is a Polk Vision tradition aimed at expanding collaboration and collective advocacy amongst our community for issues affecting all of Polk County. To the virtual audience, thank you for joining us in the comfort of your home or your office. I fully expected to see cardboard cutouts of Tony Delgado or Katie Decker out there, but I guess that's just something they do at baseball games.
And you pay for them.
Yes. Before we begin, I would like I would like to alert the viewing audience online of the opportunity to text in your questions to the number on the screen, which is 863-899-9314. At any time during the program, feel free to text your questions, and we will do our best to ensure all those are covered. If your question is intended for a specific mayor, please indicate that in your text. Finally, I'd like to say a special thank you to the Polk Vision Board of Directors for their leadership, and to our event sponsor, Citizens Bank and Trust, as well as our host sponsor, the City of Winterhaven. At this time, I'd like to invite Mayor Mutz to lead us in our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Let's pray together. Father, we thank you for the extreme privilege that you provide to allow us to serve as stewards of our communities. We thank you for the responsibilities that means we need to engage, and we thank you for the accountability we have to you for it. We pray that as we do so and have discussion today, that it is all done in a way that helps to point to the things that are important to you. For it is our goal for you to smile by the things that we accomplish. And we ask this in your precious and heavenly name. Amen.
Amen.
Let's say the pledge and stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor Mutz. And I was not practicing my own advice. So while we're at the table, if you could leave your mask on, but if you're speaking, you can lower it. Just remember to put it back up after you're done speaking. A quick housekeeping item to all the mayors before we begin. These are hot mics, so don't say anything you don't want recorded. Please keep the mics on and remember to talk into the mics. And this is the only way the live stream audience will be able to hear you. Finally, we have been informed by the city that when answering questions, you may remove your mask. However, please have it on at all other times. So I come from the Aaron Burr School of Moderating. Talk less, smile more. I will do my best to make sure my voice is not the dominating voice this conversation. Prior to this event, I was able to speak individually with the mayors regarding issues most relevant to their communities. With each topic, I will call on those who have indicated a desire to address that topic. I ask that you keep your answers to a 2 to 3 minutes response to allow time for all the issues to be covered this morning. If time is not a factor, you can then use the green light in front of you to let me know your interest on commenting on this topic. This year, we're going to change the format just a little bit to allow more time for questions and answers. I will go around the room now and introduce the mayors who are seated alphabetically, starting to my left. If you could tip your cap or wave to the camera to acknowledge your presence. Starting to my left, City of Auburndale, Mayor Tim Poshpikel.
Very good. Very good.
Mayor Scott Shablum, City of Bartow. Mayor Rob Robinson, City of Davenport. Mayor James Watts, City of Fort Meade. Mayor Melrose West, City of Haines City. Mayor Nancy Daly, City of Lake Alfred. Mayor Mike Kehoe, City of Lake Hamilton. Mayor Gene Fultz, City of Lake Wales. Mayor Bill Mutz, City of Lakeland. Mayor George Hatch, City of Mulberry.
Good morning.
Mayor Joe LaCascia, City of Polk City. Mayor Brad Dantzler, City of Winterhaven. Commissioner Bill Barzell, Polk County Commission. Based off the topics identified by the Polk Vision team, we will start with the elephant in the room, COVID-19. There have been countless conversations on this topic over the past few months, but I wanted to take a deeper dive rather than talk about whether our children should be in school. Mayor Dantzler, we are in your home city. Will you kick us off and let us know how COVID-19 has impacted small businesses in your community?
Welcome, everybody. And as a method of housekeeping, just so you know, if you do want to cuss at somebody or yell something, you turn this button and push the blue button off, and then nobody can hear you. We do have our meetings in here, so learn how to work these microphones when we're not having our meetings on Zoom. So, yeah, so COVID's, the big elephant in the room. We had a 5-hour meeting last night, and Winterhaven did pass a mandatory mask ordinance for another 30 days after much debate and much talk, and so that's going to be the way it works here for another 30 days in Winterhaven. And is my mic on? Is it not working? Talk to me. Louder?
She said they're not getting audio.
Okay. We'll wait for a minute then.
We need some Jeopardy music.
Okay, so the question is, what is Winterhaven doing for small businesses in this time of COVID? And we've instituted several different things that we're doing. Number one, Winterhaven's delayed water turn-offs, so we're not turning off the water for folks now. We've provided utility payment plans for people that may have gotten behind on the utilities. We're working with those folks to set up payment plans that they can afford. We've created drive-up, park-out, take-out parking places for restaurants. All of our restaurants now have a place where you can drive up and they'll bring your food out to you, so you can continue to support restaurants without having to go inside. We've instituted outdoor parking, they're called parklets. They're a little park on the street, put down some carpet and some tables and chairs, so you can actually sit outside if you'd like to. It also increases the number of seating, so our restaurants and shops can have more space per se in what we call parklets. We've got the businesses that have closed or what have you, vacation park garbage services, or these businesses that are temporarily closed, they don't have to pay for the garbage, so we're doing what we can to help businesses that are suffering through allowing garbage service to be temporarily shut down. We're working with all of our community partners, Main Street, Chamber of Commerce, to ensure that there are issues out there that we may not be aware of as a community, that we're trying to address those. And that's it. I mean, we're trying desperately to work through this COVID experiment like everybody else has. We were talking last night about how this has become almost a science experiment as we all try to figure out to do the right thing by everybody. And that's what we're doing for our small businesses.
Thank you. Mayor Schablom, your day job is with the Department of Health and probably have more information on this topic than anybody else. I understand that masks have been provided for families throughout the city of Bartow, and you don't even have an ordinance. How did that come about? And it's my understanding that in this time of crisis, in this pandemic, new businesses are actually being established in downtown Bartow.
Yes, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to join you here today. When when residents of our cities have lost their life, it's difficult to really refer to any action that we may have taken as a success because it's incalculable, the pain that many folks are experiencing because of this virus. But I am pleased with the city's response. We, like all of you, debated about where should we come down on a mask mandate versus a resolution. Ultimately, we decided to go with the carrot instead of the stick, and tried to encourage and empower our residents to take personal responsibility for safeguarding the other members in their community. And so one of the things we did was we purchased masks like these. We bought 4 masks for every household in our city and shipped them to their front door. And the response that we've received to that has been overwhelmingly positive. Of course, you know, you've always got your boo birds who are going to complain about something, but by and large, it's been super exciting to see, as I've been about the city, to see people walking around with their We Are Bartow masks, and we are experiencing a continued slow but steady growth in what's happening, particularly in our downtown corridor. You know, I've said for a while now, the city of Bartow is a rocket ship. We're just waiting on something to light the fuse, and it's incredibly exciting to be even now downtown and seeing business owners coming together, taking the initiative to host in safe and appropriate ways events to continue to attract attention downtown. You know, this year, 2 days before the governor's shutdown order went into effect, Bartow opened their first craft brewery, and Front Page has continued to be innovative in the ways that they're serving the residents of the city. We've got 3 or 4 other businesses that are scheduled to open in the next 4 weeks, and so our community is proven to be very resilient, and it's exciting to just really be a part of that and find new and innovative ways as much as we're able to come alongside and support that type of development.
Mayors Foltz, Watts, and Daly, you all have mask ordinances in place. How did each of your cities come to that decision? We'll start with ladies first.
I appreciate that. Like to see more ladies on this board next year. One of our major discussions we had is that even though Lake Alfred's a small town, we have 7 schools within our city limits. And most of them are charter schools. We have a few that are for ADA challenged students. And we talked about how having the mask ordinance in place was a good backup for them when the parents and the students, you know, weren't being as responsible as we would have liked to see them be. So that was one of the things that kind of moved us in that direction. And we also, rather than have it be a situation where if somebody's not wearing a mask, they're going to get a ticket, well, we've provided masks to the businesses so that when people come in, they can say, if you don't have a mask, here's one for you. And the signs on the door to let them know. And from what I've seen, the businesses have bought into it. I've been to the different, like the diner and the other businesses where they appreciate it. They appreciate having the backup for them to say, well, you know, please wear your mask because, you know, the city requires it.
Mayor Foltz?
Yes. We have a mandatory mask ordinance in place, and believe me, it was not received very well when we first did it because a number of people saying that we were taking away their rights, that they should have the right to wear or not to wear, but we felt like their lives were worth more to us than to just let them take a chance on surviving without that. We did put something in place to where there was where we said that we recommend, or highly recommend, that you wear the mask. And then we went to the ordinance. We tried to do the emergency ordinance, but that did not work because we had someone on the commission that was fighting against it. So we went ahead and went around the corner and did it the other way. And now we have an ordinance for it, and that ordinance is still in place. And the next commission meeting, we're actually going to talk about it. Our businesses, small businesses, have suffered quite a bit because in Lake Wales, we have just started a revitalization project to our downtown area and connecting our northwest sector, which is the predominantly African-American part of the city, to the downtown area. And when COVID came in, that kind of put the brakes on much of what's happening. We're still going forward with the Dover Coal Plan, with the revitalization and restructuring of downtown. And we had just done incentives for restaurants to come in, and we had about 4 different restaurants that came in, and that kind of put the brakes on them for a while because of what's taking place. Many of them said that they did not want the mask ordinance because that would actually kill their business. Well, I think the COVID itself killed the business, not the mask, because many people that I talked with said that they felt safer going into a restaurant with the social distancing in place and with the mask in place when they go in to do this. So it's not killing, the mask itself is not killing the business, it's the COVID and the mindset, because usually when you've got so many different opinions that are roaming around out there, if you listen to social media, if you listen to main media, they're going to hype everything up and people are scared to death because they don't understand what's taking place. But our city, I feel, is going to come back and come back strong. And we do have things in place to where we can get those, get moving again and moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Mayor Watts.
No.
Yes. Can anybody hear me now?
Yes.
Well, the ordinance got on the agenda in Fort Meade primarily from input from citizens, people requesting it. We had some business owners reluctant, like it's going to kill our business. But the COVID took its toll in Fort Meade with death, and I think people saw it. I've had no complaints since we've had it in place, to me personally. Others might have fielded some. I haven't. But I have noticed that the people are wearing them. And we do a mask handout regularly to give 4 per household, I believe. And it's been very receptive. We've entered things with the Main Street application. We've worked with the Chamber of Commerce and putting some grant money back in downtown to help the businesses come along. Because economy in Fort Meade has been sitting stagnant for years now since the mines started pulling out, which was our major industry. So we were already hurting before COVID got here. Now we're just trying to get through it, and we're coming. It's moving in the upward direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayors. Another timely topic is the 2020 census. We all know the importance of an accurate count, for it determines federal funding for municipalities, as well as representation in Congress. Mayor Robinson, you lead the county in those who have participated at 67.4%. How is it that you have beaten the county, state, and national average?
We've been very aggressive in tackling and getting people to sign up. We've had signs all over town. We've had door-to-door. We've had hangers. We also, which is, I think, been terminated, each day we would go through the sign-ups and make a drawing. And out of that drawing, we would give a $50 gift certificate. So we've been very aggressive at all our meetings, signs all over town, and again, door hangers. and really been pushing for it. We recognize how important it is for us to get our fair share.
Mayor LaCascia, you are a close second. Tell us how you use social media to increase your numbers.
It was pretty simple, really. We just went on social media in Polk City. If we want to hear from our people, we have a little site on social media where we just ask them a question, or we tell them the position that we are encouraging them to take. And we just said it's very important. It's either going to be getting government money, and we need to have a 2020, we need the census to be high, or we're spending your dollars. And it was pretty simple. That's exactly how simple it was. Everybody came forward, and I think we were only maybe 0.2% behind, I guess, Robbie. And we were the first, we were highest for, I think, a good number of months. So it's pretty simple. Spend your money or spend the government's money, and if you don't want to let us know where you are and who you are, we're not going to get it.
Congratulations. Mayor Kehoe, you went from 9% participation in 2010 to 50% this year. That's remarkable. How did Lake Hamilton make the leap?
Well, actually, I think we need to thank Kristen from Polk Vision. She helped us out a lot. We got a lot of signs that we're able to post throughout the town. One of our challenges is the fact that we do not have home mail delivery. And unfortunately, the census is not sent to P.O. boxes. So it became a major challenge because when the pandemic hit, all of the census personnel were pulled off the street after one day. So we got with Polk Vision, we got the signs out throughout the community. We also, during that period, had food banks delivering food, and I was out on the streets checking with the residents, passing out flyers about getting the census done, and I think that we're fortunate that we're up to 50%, and we wish we were higher, but we're still working on it.
Well, that's a remarkable jump, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Mayor Hatch, when I spoke to Mayor Schablom, he mentioned partnering with local churches to get the word out. How do you move the needle in Mulberry?
About the same. Our local churches through food giveaways, which has been really, because of the COVID, kind of a monster in itself. I mean, in the fact that that it's large. So we've been doing through that method.
Very good. So there are a lot of ways to define affordable housing. In fact, Mayor Daley refers to it as attainable housing. Mayor Poshpikal, I know this is an extremely important issue to you. Tell us what you're doing in Auburndale by partnering with a national organization.
In Auburndale, we're partnering with Julie Ferris, the Executive Director of the Habitat for Humanity of East Polk County, and using CDBG money, we're going into a CDBG targeted area, purchasing empty lots, then in turn, turning them over to Habitat. Habitat, through a process of an application process, then are finding families to help build the home. That's part of the Habitat purpose, and they're building these homes in these neighborhoods, and they're actually having great success. Just last week, we dedicated another home, the 5th in this one neighborhood, and we've got great new citizens because of this in our city of Auburndale, and taxpayers, and very proud. And I can't be impressed so much by Julie Farish. Again, I'm dropping a name, but she does a wonderful job. It's a great team, and they're such highly dedicated volunteers. And again, they have to work with they work with the city. We get our inspectors out there, and it's a great partnership, and it's something that we're very proud of.
Perfect. Mayors Daley and Foltz, would you like to add your comments? Ladies first.
In Lake Alfred, we have also purchased and donated some lots for the Habitat for Humanity, and they're a great organization. It's always hard to find developers and builders that want to target the attainable market. So, hopefully, going forward, we'll be able to do more of that in Lake Alfred.
Affordable housing, or workforce housing, as I would call it, is more important now than ever before, with people losing their domiciles, not being able to pay to stay there. And I mentioned us revitalizing our downtown and tying the northwest sector into the downtown. That is one of the things that we hold high, and that would be the workforce housing. And as we look at it, we have begun to identify areas that the city owns, or identify areas primarily in that northwest sector, because we don't want it to be a sector that's known as the African American community. We want to diversify. We want housing that's there that's going to be mixed housing, to where nobody knows who makes the most money that lives in those areas. We do have contractors that are coming in talking and wanting to bid on that. We're wanting to put some houses there in that area, at least a couple, that's going to show people what they're going to look like, and try to get the contractors to do some subsidies that would come in and say, now we're going to make it affordable by finding ways for people to afford to come in here and being able to sustain after they get in. So that is something that's really big now. And we had problems, not necessarily in Lake Wales, but all over the county with veterans housing, not being able to, and some of them are out there and don't know who they are, where they are, and they need assistance to come out of the woods and begin to get into some type of great housing areas. And I think that's another thing that we need to take a look at as far as workforce housing or affordable housing is concerned. We've got a HUD housing area there in Lake Wales that's getting ready to be revitalized. And we're working with them through Dover Coal, which is the group that's redoing our downtown. And we're looking at mixed housing in that area now, instead of just the traditional projects that HUD normally does. And I think that's going to enhance the opportunity for individuals to be able to get into that housing at an affordable rate and possibly be able to sustain themselves once there.
Thank you. Without appropriate housing, the end result can be homelessness and poverty. Mayor Hatch, who is leading the charge in Mulberry to tackle this issue?
Leading the charge is it's a group effort, I'll be honest with you. There's several things going on. There's a Walmart north of us, and there's fixing to be a bunch of homes there. There was a mobile home park behind one of our credit unions that was about 12 acres of land. That's fixing to be about 40 homes. Mayor Fultz mentioned veterans. Habitat for Humanity's trying to build 25 or 30 homes down there in a section that's specifically for veterans. And that's kind of exciting. And we're working with the county to get that area annexed into the city. So our city lawyers are fighting all that out. And let's see, there's a couple more that are close to the city, and there's another one that's like 6,000 homes that's in the city limits, but they have been dragging their feet because of the slowdown in the economy back from 2008 till now, and they're beginning to make rumbling noises again. So it's exciting to see all these new homes coming in. And of course, with the city, it's also exciting to me because several of those projects are in CRAs that were formerly taxed as agricultural rate. So a lot of that tax increase on that money, once they start those, is going to come directly to the city. or at least a lot of it will. And it's just really exciting. So thank you.
Mayor Dantzler, is homelessness, poverty a problem here in Winterhaven?
Yes. So I'm using a microphone. I hope you guys can hear me now. So apparently this one was not working. But yeah, homelessness, and what Winterhaven has done is we've kind of, and truth be known, all of us are taking different approaches to homelessness and to affordable housing, and that's great. We all need to do that. Winterhaven, what we've decided to do is to focus in on children, homeless children, and every one of you in here can go to the school board and find out how many homeless kids are in your community. And there's a project called Project Hearth where you can, if you are a child in the Polk County schools and you're homeless, you can let the school board know, and they'll make sure you don't have to change schools. They'll continue to pick you up and get you to where you can stay in the same school. So they know who the children are. So we decided 2 years ago to finance a study on how to tackle homelessness with kids. And I made this offer to all of you, and I make it again today. I'm more than willing to share that study with you. It's a great paper. It's a white paper that'll give you a roadmap on how you can attack this problem for children, homeless children in your community. In Winterhaven, we're fortunate. We have an organization called Heart for Winterhaven, and they are it's a organization, a ministry of sorts, but they have we finance them to the tune of about $110,000 a year. And they're doing lots of things. They're fixing up older homes to make them habitable. They're finding garage apartments to put people in. If you have a mobile home, for example, that needs a new air conditioner, they'll provide the new air conditioner. They'll put floors in places. We've got agreements with contractors to go around, look for blighted areas that need a little bit of money or a little bit of fix up to where homeless children, families with homeless kids can live there. We're providing rent assistance for people that are nearing homelessness, because the best way to beat homelessness is to not become homelessness. So it's to not become homeless. So we're trying to keep people in their homes, because oftentimes these people with families, they have income, they have a good job, but they have one thing that happens: a car breaks down, a doctor bill, and before long they can't get over that hump. So we're trying to help families with children get over that hump and keep them in their homes. And we're having a lot of success. I don't want to steal the time here. I'm happy to share the successes with any of you. But Heart for Winterhaven, Brad Beatty is the executive director. It would be worth your time, if you're interested in this, to spend some time with him, go to lunch with him, and let him tell you some of these ideas, because we're very proactive in this. But Winterhaven, just like everybody has their own focus, Winterhaven has focused in on children, and so that's what we're doing here. So,
great.
Can I have a question, Brad?
Question.
Exactly, how do you help folks? I mean, if you know that they're economically down for a period of time because of an economic event, and you say you're trying to keep them in their homes. Can you be a little more specific? How does the city help them get over an economic dilemma in their individual lives?
That is a very good point, and the city doesn't necessarily do it. We've partnered with Heart for Winterhaven. They have the expertise to go in and see people that are a few months behind in their rent, and they need 6 months of help. We financed Heart for Winterhaven, and Heart for Winterhaven is actually doing that. I don't know how we as a government can do it, and we're fortunate that we have an organization in the ministry that does it for us.
That was the point I wanted to make, because it sounds as if the government is getting involved, individually.
No, I mean,
I can understand the third-party intervention and helping that third party, help that person. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got city staff that interfaces with these folks and with Heart for Winterhaven, but I don't know how. We've never been able to figure out how a government can actually do that. So. That's how we're.
That was the purpose of my question. Thank you.
Commissioner Braswell, I'll get you to weigh in on this topic. How big of an issue is this countywide?
It's a big issue, but our focus, our direction, the way we look at it is, whether it's homelessness, poverty, affordable housing, or probably every other issue we're going to talk about today, it's always about money and not having money in your wallet. It's not working. It's always about money and not having any money in your wallet. And so the way we approach this is, how do we have an economy where people have jobs, people have good jobs, because
When you have a job, you can afford rent. When you have a job, you can fix your car. You can do a lot of these things. And another thing, when you have a job, you don't make bad decisions. You usually make better decisions. So our emphasis has been to create and keep an environment conducive to businesses, try to lure businesses here. We use tax incentives to do that sometimes. But, you know, before COVID, I find this interesting. Right before the COVID pandemic hit back in January, the state Chamber of Commerce, the Florida Chamber of Commerce, put out a paper that Polk County has the most diverse economy of any county in the state of Florida. Everything from agriculture to manufacturing. The manufacturing jobs are coming. We've got quite a few in the pipeline right now, and some more coming in the near future. So that's kind of been our take is get the businesses going, get the people employed, and these problems, while they're not going to solve themselves, they're certainly going to be better off that way. But you know, we recognize that there's just going to be cases where that's just not going to work. You know, what we've done, as you all know, we got the CARES money. Let me back up. We normally have SHIPS money from the state that we put into our affordable housing pool to help people out with down payments on mortgages, rent, and that sort of thing. That money's been swept. Fortunately, we've gotten, I believe it's around $2 million from the federal government for that specific purpose. And then I think yesterday Beasley told us we got another $2 or $3 million coming for that purpose. So we'll use that money for that. We've done that with the CARES money through United Way, through our own program, helping people out. But, you know, we recognize, you know, we're at, 13% unemployment right now in the county. We were 3% back in January. We got a long ways to go. There's going to be a lot of people that really haven't felt this pandemic until now, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But those are, you know, we kind of look at the old rising tide lifting all boats concept as a way to work it.
Okay, thank you. But I don't think you can have a mayor's roundtable without discussing transportation and transit. And just this morning, as I was getting ready to come out here this morning, I heard Aaron Killebrew on my radio talking about new routes in East Polk. Mayor Mutz, I know you are a big fan of Tom Phillips and the Citrus Connection. Tell us how that system has impacted your city.
Well, I think it's impacting our county, which is the really exciting part for us as well. Certainly, and I get to sit on the LAMTED board alongside Commissioner Lindsay and Paul, who have served very, very well, and two other Lakeland City Commissioners. This board has been able to watch the efficiency of Tom Phillips and his team do incredible multiplying of dollars. Wise routes, buses bought in their second half-life from larger transit systems, and then transmission and engines put in those buses and reliving them, you know, giving them a second life. And to do those dollars in a way that not only has been able to expand the hours of service and some of the Saturday service, but to go over to the east side of Polk County. And so connecting with Haines City is a wonderful opportunity. You can literally go from Bowling Green to Haines City on the transit system if you want to be able to do that today, and that's pretty exciting. We are going to have 945,000 some people by 2045 in our greater Polk County area. We have to have a vital transit system. It needs to have Wi-Fi. It needs to be able to be something that people need to ride beyond just people of a lower income that are trying to get to jobs, but replacing what they're driving to have it be there. So Tom's leadership has been extraordinary, and the team that he has pulled together of problem solving has been inspirational. We have to continue that. When we think about the opportunity we have with autonomous vehicles, a research district, the ability to be able to be a part of that, the integration of some of that into solving transportation problems within the next decade, all those facets are going to become important. And so having a vital transit system that can help to absorb that wisely is a big piece of that.
Great. Mayor LaCascia, how has Citrus Connection helped your city?
I'm sorry, who? You. I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
How has Citrus Connection helped your city?
Well, not very much, simply because Polk City doesn't have the same type of population setup that a lot of the other cities have. Most people live on either a ranch or a farm or in gated communities. Consequently, they all have cars. I spoke to Tom Phillips and worked pretty closely with him a few years ago, and we were trying to figure out exactly how the mass transportation could come into Polk City. We didn't really come up with anything that we could see was in the near future until the city grows and people get accustomed to simply staying out of their cars. We couldn't find a central place, I mean, to have even transportation. We have one state road, basically, that runs through Polk City, which is State Road 33. And then it goes on to 559, which is just as about the same. People don't live in communities where they can easily we use gated communities. We have a few of those. So let me use that as an example. We have 600 homes in one, 400 homes in another. And they can, even to get to 33, State Road 33, to get a bus, they would have to drive. They would have to take their car to get to 33 to get to the bus. And it was an impossible situation. So I'm afraid we're going to have to wait till we grow a little bit more and we change some of our habits. We find it impossible to get people out of their cars, whether it's to go to work or go shopping. That's what they're going to do.
Thank you. Mayor West, one of the issues you wanted addressed when you came into office was the overcrowded roads, specifically Highway 27. What improvements have been made during your 3 years in office?
Good morning, and thanks for being here, allowing me to be here today, and thanks for Polk Vision and to you as well, Matt, for being the moderator of this Mayors Roundtable, the 10th annual Mayors Roundtable. And it's a great question. I want to back up, if I may, just a little and talk about some topics that I didn't want to turn the card around till later, but I want to talk about some topics, and they're very important to me and my city. The first topic then I'll address the issues with the transportation on the roadways since I've been on the commission. One of the things I want to first back up and talk about is, and I want to bring this attention to all the mayors that's here in Polk County, that we have to realize that with the pandemic, and I was reading an article in the Lakeland Ledger, I want to say maybe about 3 or 4 days ago, where it said that Polk County has the highest positive COVID rate testing, COVID tests in the state of Florida. That was a concern to me. So I applaud the cities and the municipalities and the mayors here that has the mandatory mask. Haines City don't have it. We have it strongly recommended. So we have to do our part. And it's like an old saying that my mom used to say, hate me now, love me later. And that's the way we have to look at our constituents. Maybe they may hate us now, but they're going to love us later for putting that mandatory mask in place, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to curb this pandemic. And we are responsible for these constituents, believe it or not. So I just want to share that with you. And with affordable homes that you was talking about a little earlier, you know, I look at our veterans. Our veteran goes and they fight in wars. They go out to, you know, and years ago, they didn't have a choice. They were drafted. Now they're still going out and fighting in wars and going overseas, getting injured, coming back. And then when they return back to their community, they don't have a place to live. Veteran homes is the key. It's a sad situation where our veteran comes back with the loss of a limb, but then they have to find assistance someplace. That shouldn't happen. Every municipality should have some type of program in place where we be able to take care of our veteran. So we are strongly working with our nonprofits to build veteran homes. We're getting ready to build veteran homes in our community, strictly veteran homes, for that particular reason. Citrus Connection. We talked a little bit, and I know I'm taking a lot of time till I get to my point, but Citrus Connection, about 5-6 years ago, bus routes was non-existent over on the ridge. But if you all sit here and you realize that the Ridge is the fastest growing area in Polk County, the Ridge itself is going to probably be bigger than the city of Lakeland within the next 5 to 10 years. And Mayor Mosley even admitted to that the Ridge is where it's at. So we, and I say we, the mayors on the Ridge, mayor folks, and all of us, we have a 27 advocacy group, and we were meeting with Mayor Robinson and then Mayor Mike Teal. All of us, we got together with Tom Phillips, and we said, we want our voice to be heard here. We don't have transportation. We don't have transportation. You know, it was taking us, when I say us, citizens from Lake Wales, to get from Lake Wales to I-4, years ago, it would take you 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Now, and Mayor Foltz is here, he can attest to this, that it will take you anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to drive from Lake Wales to I-4. The reason being, and we addressed this in our 27 advocacy group, the reason being because, and we approached DOT about this issue, because trucks on Highway 27 would be in all 3 lanes. So if you got behind a truck and red lights or traffic lights or in every municipality from Lake Wales to I-4, then a truck stop, they got 18 gears to change again. You got 3 trucks. It's taking you forever. So we approached DOT and said the only way we can eliminate this problem is to force those trucks over into the right 2 lanes, which they didn't agree with that. Right, Mayor Fox?
Right.
So our concerns is that, and we're like this as mayors, and I'm almost finished, our concern is our constituents' concern. We ride these roads, we see these roads, we own them every day, and we feel their pain. And when they come to that podium, when they come to that mic on those every other Thursday or Tuesday night to say, hey, this is our concern, we shouldn't go on deaf ears. We should fight for our constituents. And to answer your question about the transportation, we are continuing to work with DOT, with transportation from Frostproof all the way to I-4. The reason why I say this here, we want those lights to be in sync. The problem with transportation, it takes forever because the lights are not in sync. In our city, we may have 3 lights on Highway 27, but one is red and the other one is green. By the time you get to the second one, that one's green and the other one is red. So that's a traffic issue. So we're going to continue as mayors on the Ridge and as the mayor of Haines City, as long as I sit in that seat, I'm going to continue to fight for better transportation on Highway 27 for the Ridge, not just Haines City, for the Ridge, even though I serve Haines City. So thank you for that question, Matt, and I'm looking forward to the next question.
Thank you. Mayor Robinson, would you care to comment on transportation transit needs in Davenport?
If I may be so rude, it sucks. 27 is probably one of the largest parking areas in Polk County. We're not getting enough roads in northeast Polk. Right now we're working on, and we've been working with Martha, who's been great. We see more Martha in her few years there than we've seen with others the whole time I've been here since '92. One of the things we're trying to do to relieve traffic on 27 is put a road, power line road, running that from Lake Wales all the way up to 1792. We think that would relieve a lot of the traffic on 27, and it's really needed. We're right now working with private builders to help continue that road, which would be a great help to relieve our traffic problems. 1792, we went to a meeting several months ago in Haines City where they were talking about expanding 1792. And DOT always puts on a great show. And I asked the men who were discussing widen it, like they have in Eagle Lake and Lake Alfred and so forth. And of course, we have plans. I says, well, listen, I'm 80 years old. My doctor just gave me 15 years of good life. Will I see the widening of that road before the time comes for me to leave? And he says, oh, yeah, it's coming. You'll see it. But 1792 needs to be widened. It'll take the load of 27 off, and also the power line road needs to be put all the way through from Lake Wales to 1792, which would relieve all our, not all our traffic problems, but it would relieve some of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Daley, you mentioned to me that those in need of a good system are those who are in our hospitality industry. Is Lake Alfred properly equipped for the needs of your citizens?
Mass transit has been a really important subject to me because, well, because I'm from New York, I've witnessed what it can do for the economy. And if you look around the world, no robust economy is without mass transit. This 27 discussion for me, I've always advocated that we need just more overpasses and get rid of a bunch of traffic lights. You could eliminate 3 or 4 traffic lights with one overpass with some service roads. Then you don't take the businesses away by putting a road, off the distant pass. I think the 1792 expansion would be very helpful because it could bring people up to the the train transit that is in Poinciana that goes to Orlando. That people have to change their mindset that they have to get in their car and sit on I-4 to get wherever they have to go all the time when there's other alternatives. In Lake Alfred, we're a big fan of Tom Phillips, and actually we were the first city to donate to his cause when he comes around and asks the cities for subsidies. He's great with partnering with businesses like Legoland and Polk State College, to be able to offer free transportation to veterans and so forth, which is great for the economy. We have to get people to understand that just because you don't ride it doesn't mean it doesn't affect you. You have some elderly people that maybe don't really need to still drive, but they want to go to town or people that are if you go sit at a restaurant, the wait staff might have come there on a bus, or if you go to the hospital, the people that take care of you there may have ridden on the bus. So the buses don't just affect the people that make these decisions if you don't ride it, but it affects everybody, and it really is a big boost for the economy when you have a good mass transit system.
Thank you. Water everywhere. Or is it? Mayor Foltz, you are the chair of the Polk Regional Water Cooperative. Does Polk County have the supply to meet the demand?
As a matter of fact, our current chair is sitting over there next to you, Tim Pospical, and I probably will be coming up next month as the chair. And no, we do not have enough water for the future demand, but we are working on that. Because with the county and all municipalities that have joined together in the Polk Regional Water Cooperative, we are actively looking for, searching for, developing new ways to bring the water in, looking at the Lower Floridian Aquifer in order to make sure that we've got the amount of water that's needed for the demand over the next 30 to 40 years. And we have been moving along very well in the PRWC, and we have developed exploratory wells in the east and the west, and hopefully these will lead us to the point to where we can actually get that water supply up. Now, I know that the rules have been written by the CFWI to where if we're using, as individuals, 120 to 150 gallons a day now in our homes, we're going to have to cut that down to 100. And that's going to take conservation. That's going to take everybody doing their part to see that happen. And by doing so, we're actually going to be able to conserve water, but not necessarily give everybody water, the new water that we're looking at the same rate that we're doing now, because that's going to be more expensive water. And we in Central Florida, I think, are ahead of the curve by stepping out now and doing what we're doing to try to answer that need that we have. And I'm really delighted that we are working together as a unit in order to get these things accomplished. Are all of us in perfect lockstep? with what's taking place? No. But we're getting there because we're all negotiating and talking with one another and getting to a point to where we can all say that now we can survive together as one. It's no doing it by yourself. We're going to have to do it together, because if one person tried to do one of these projects, a small city like ours, we'd be under before we got started. But with all of us working together, we can bring that water supply that we need over the years to come.
So if I'm not mistaken, I believe all the mayors have a seat at that table of the PRWC. And I think there's actually a meeting following this one.
Yes.
Mayors Kehoe, Mutz, Robinson, and Paschal. Can you tell us about your experience on the co-op?
Well, I know this started 5 years ago, and I've only been on the board for 2. And, personally, according to what Gene Foltz said, this is a team effort of all the cities, because we're all in this together for the citizens of this county. And it's very imperative that we all work very close together. Like I said, I'm somewhat new. I'm learning still. I'm hoping that I'll be on the board for quite a few years. But as I said, we need to work very close together as a team to accomplish this, because we're here for the citizens, and that's what's important for the future.
Mayor Mutz?
I would certainly echo that. City of Lakeland is a strong advocate of the PRWC and will continue to be. It's imperative for our growth. Water is so easy to take for granted, and it's so critical to any region's future. And if anybody needs more of an example of that kind of problem, Flint, Michigan can always serve as the petri dish of your experience. We have to protect our water, and water can not only have an inadequate supply, it can be contaminated. Therefore, the PRWC represents to me the opportunity that we have to work together as a region on something that we absolutely must and should do together. What we have to make certain we do as well, though, is represent those costs appropriately. And I'm probably more sensitive to that because of the larger population, certainly, that we have in our city, and the county is the only entity that contributes more to the PRWC than Lakeland does, and that would be appropriate because of the landmass. So what we do together as members, in alignment with what Swift Mud and other entities want to have satisfied, are the kinds of goals we have to have. Conservation's a big piece of this. Appropriate cost allocations, a big piece of this. We'll get through those things together because we're a group of people that really want to represent, just as Mayor Kehoe said, the interests of our citizens.
Mayor Paschal?
Eugene, you're going to be a good chairman. Let me tell you.
Thank you.
As I said, this is really an unprecedented event for us to come together as an entire county to have everybody part of this Polk Regional Water Cooperative. It is going to be a Herculean effort. It is going to be major, and probably the only one that will see it through is going to be Robbie, because he's already got a guarantee from his doctor. But this is going to be a program that's going to take years, and it is going to be expensive, but working together, we can do it. We can't do it singularly. As Mayor Foltz had alliterated to, is that there's going to be new rules through the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the Central Florida Water Initiative, and that's going to change some things, and we're going to have to look harder at probably moving a little faster than we maybe had wanted to get this alternative water source up and running. The numbers, when you hear the numbers of what we're using today and what we're going to be needing in 2035, are a little scary. Yes. A great start, as already been spoken, is a conservation. When you know about what a simple leak in your commode can cost you a day, as simple as that, we can defer the cost of all the AWS if we look at that very hard, but we have to remember it's a big cost. It's a large effort, and it's going to cost. And we have to work together. Together we can do it. Singularly is going to be very, very hard to do that. Thank you.
Mayor Robinson, follow up?
I don't sit on that board. We have a commissioner assigned to it, but there's no question that water is a problem. One of my initiatives actually was to do away with the water-thirsty grass. All new homes for the last 10, 15 years that are being built in Davenport have to have the more friendly grass that does not need the watering, which is, most of them will tell us that watering lawns is a great waste of water. So that's one of the things we've done. And of course, we've gone along with the Swift Mud with the 2-day-a-week watering. So we've tried to conserve our water as a way of helping out.
Thank you. All right.
Excuse me, can I
Yes,
follow up on some
absolutely.
of that? You know, last year, you remember, Tim, at this very meeting, I had said that we were not really being as transparent as we could, at that time, last year, in terms of talking about the scope of the problem. And it's been articulated very well here. We're running out of water in the Upper Fruitian Aquifer, and we have to look for alternative water supplies. But we have not really been telling the folks what they're going to be spending. All we're saying is it's going to get expensive. Ravi just said in Davenport that somebody's working from your commission, and do you know that Davenport will be paying 72.90% more for water by 2027? Has anybody reported that back to you?
Yes.
Okay. Have you reported it to your citizens in that fashion?
I've been at open meetings.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, no.
Well, Bill Mutz said last year that the only time that any attention is going to be given to the water problem is the first time we increase our water rates. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. The Polk Regional Water Co-op right now is poised on spending $300 million in the next couple of years. It's going to result in the increase in rates, which we just say, well, the rates are going to go up. Engineers, September 18th of 2019, engineers addressed the PRWC. And they said, these are the following estimates for how much water rates could rise by 2027. Davenport, 72.96%. Mulberry, 68.12%. Polk City, 60.23%. Eagle Lake, 47.62%. Dundee, 34.78%. Haines City, 33.65%. Lake Alfred, 31.78%. And Auburndale, 31.73%. There is no way in the world that we have been talking to our people about what's ahead, preparing them for this, and we're ready to spend $300 million. Okay, and this is exactly where we're at. I agree that we have to do it collectively. It's the only way we can afford to spend that kind of money. But we have not been transparent enough with the people. And Bill Mutz said, again, last year, you're not going to get any response from the people until you increase their water rates. It's just not right. We have to be talking to the people about what it's going to cost, why we're doing it, how much we're spending, what we're spending it on, and what it's going to cost. And conservation is the way out, and we haven't been doing enough in that as well. But I will be speaking this afternoon at 2 o'clock to Polk Regional Water Co-op about some of those issues. But I did want to say that we have to tell our citizens exactly what's going to happen, not in terms of what is going to be expensive. We have information as to what it's going to cost them. Let's get them involved now and tell them what it's going to cost them. That's the only way we're going to start talking about conservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Question?
Yes.
Joe, excuse me, sir. Interesting on your numbers, percentages of increase. Did you have one for Fort Meade?
Do I have the numbers?
Did you have one for Fort Meade?
The engineers, this was September 18th of 2019. If I didn't mention it, they were not. Let me see. The engineers who spoke to the PRWC board last week provided following estimates for how much water rates could rise by 2027. Fort Meade was not mentioned in that.
Thank you. I was hoping I just missed it. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know why. I'm just reporting what the engineers had said
Right.
last year.
And now my microphone's
By the way,
working.
I can tell you that number has gone up since, because a year ago, we did not know we were going to spend $300 million in the next couple of years.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, but that number has been solidified now.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Commissioner Braswell?
Yeah, I'm not, 300 million is just the water co-op's part for the short term. But I believe the long-term dollar amount to get 40 million additional gallons a day is close to $1 billion between what Swift-Mud's
Yes,
kicking
this
in.
is only through 2035.
So my thought on the water co-op, a couple of things. First of all, it's not an option. It has to be done that way. Our legislators aren't going to talk to us individually, so we have to do it that way, and that's a given. I think we're just getting to the point where the rubber's meeting the road, and you're talking about rates, and I think you're going to find, and we're all going to find, it's going to be a very unpleasant subject and get very unpleasant as we get closer to raising rates. I guess this would be my challenge to the water co-op, and you and I just talked about this. I think there are so many other ways to get water as opposed to a desalinization or whatever it's called over in Lake Wales. It is an extremely expensive process. The plumbing, the piping is going to be ridiculous to do all this. When we're willing to spend, and whether it's water co-op, county, city, tax dollars, $1 billion collectively, to get 40 million additional gallons a day, when we've got a company right here in Polk County that has an 80 million gallon a day water permit that they pay zero for. So and that's Mosaic, and we all know that. And I've asked them, and I've talked to them. They've come in the office, and it's a private company who needs water. And I worked at the phosphate mines, and I know they don't need drinking water. They just need water to make a slurry to move phosphate from one end of the county to the other. I would love to see the subject discussed about other options besides these very expensive options, because I think there's some opportunities there. Mosaic has 6-8 years before their permits come up for renewal. There's no reason we couldn't engage them now to discuss, and I've found this out just from the conversations I've had. You cannot transfer water permits, all right? That doesn't happen. They will always be the holder of the permit. But in farming, what we do with Swift Mud and some of these other water organizations is we cost share. When they find something they want, they're willing to give us money to do it. I think the water co-op ought to look at going to Swift or going to Mosaic and saying, look, we'll cost share your cost to drill wells down into the lower Florida end, the lower quality water. We'll get that for you at a cost of, I mean, my God, if we did it for $50 million, we're way ahead. Do whatever we have to do to work with them to get them the water they need in exchange for the upper Florida end water that we need. And I think there's so many other opportunities there to save so much money and still get the end result.
Bill, I absolutely agree with you. I would suggest respectfully to you that you mention that to George Lindsay, exactly what you've said today, and let's see if he can bring it up at 2 o'clock at the PRWCA and get some of these new ideas, because none of them have come out at a PRWCA meeting. And at the same time, suggest that the county commission begin to talk to their citizens at their meetings as to exactly the details of how much is being spent and how much is going to cost. Because that hasn't been done, to my knowledge, and I've been to a number of your meetings.
Well, I do know what's going on, and it's not, this is probably the first time anybody from the county's publicly addressed it, but it is going on behind the scenes. I know Mosaic and I have met several times. They have met with we have a lobbyist for water who is meeting with them on a regular basis to try to figure out, because to bring it up and then not have a solution, why bring it up? So the idea is to come up with a framework to move forward with it before it's been brought up. So it's coming, but I'm like you. I'm ready for it to come out publicly. I'm ready to start discussing it publicly and get it going, because this talk about $1 billion for 40 million gallons of water just seems crazy.
Thank you.
Matt, just to follow up from Lake Alfred, we're embracing the Water Star program, and all of our new LDC is about to come out working on a new set of rules, and all new construction is going to require Water Star for their water conservation, which everybody knows is the cheapest way to have more water in the county.
Mayor Kehoe, did you have?
Yes. Back, I believe it was in July, and we had a couple of them in July, we were advised by DEP that they're going to be cutting our water permits for all the cities. And I brought up a big question about agriculture, and they said we're not cutting agriculture, yet all the citizens, the residents of this county are going to be paying the higher water rates. What is agriculture putting into us, considering the fact that they use the most amount of water? I've asked that question, and I've never gotten an answer.
Can I address that?
Yes.
Being in agriculture, I think I can shed some light on it. I'm not sure where the idea that agriculture uses the most water comes from, because I would disagree with that. And the reason is, Polk County at one point in time had 90,000 acres of orange groves, living orange groves in the county. We're down to just a fraction of that. If you go to Auburndale, if you go to Davenport, wherever you go, everywhere where these new developments are going was most likely a prior orange grove. Those wells are capped and plugged. They're never going to be used again. So I don't think agriculture is the biggest user of water anymore. And even to that, I'll go back to my cost share idea. A perfect example is me. So I've got 12-inch wells and we pump water. The water management people come to me and they say, hey, we'll cost share with you on putting in drip irrigation, which is what we've done. And we've cut our water use just on my farm 90% because it's so much more efficient. So I think agriculture is, I'm not going to say going away, but it's almost going away. And the methods that we use to irrigate are far more efficient than they've ever been before. So I think we'll be a smaller and smaller player. I'm sure the utilities use more water than we do. Homeowners use a lot more water. So, I mean, I'm not saying, you know, we've solved our end of it, but we're certainly working on it pretty hard.
It's just that I know that Commissioner Lindsay mentioned to me 2 months back in July that agriculture is at 30%, yet the data that was provided us in all the graphs last winter actually showed agriculture around 70. So I want to know pretty much what's the correct number, because what they're supplying us and what we're told are two different stories.
I can explain that. So what our permits are for and what we use are two vastly different numbers. My permit is for that inefficient overhead irrigation that I started with. The fact that I only use a fraction of it. So what's happened just in the last 90 days, the state has come out and they want to, they're reevaluating every permit, and they're looking at, because we meter our water, we report it to the water management people every month, they want to start comparing what we consume to our permits, because they know our permits are much higher than what we're actually using, trying to get a more realistic number. Mm-hmm. So once that process is complete, and God knows how long that'll take, that'll be a more accurate number of what agriculture actually uses.
Okay, let's move on. All right, now the topics start to get a little close to home for me. An ongoing topic is that of broadband. Mayor Shablum, you are starting a $2 million pilot program in the installation of smart meters. Tell us how broadband is important to Bartow.
Well, broadband really has become the kind of lifeblood of doing life and business and school. And of course, being the county seat, we do have some fiber that is run throughout our city to support governmental offices and schools. However, by and large, the majority of the residents do not have access to high-speed digital networks. And we've encountered a couple instances already in which large developers were interested in doing business with us, but we could not meet their digital demands. And so it became imperative for us as a city to remedy this if we really want to be the type of community that is poised to meet the needs of our future generation residents and businesses. And so this pilot project did get underway with the idea of resourcing smart meters, and it will begin kind of in our downtown corridor and expanding outwards. And assuming the success of that will be most likely phased in over the course of several years in order to certainly provide the meter aspect, which helps us be more efficient as a utility, a power provider, but then also, as you're well acquainted, a variety of other options in terms of creating smart communities, improving the networking options that the residents enjoy as a whole. So it's something that we're particularly pleased to see come about.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Mayor West, you mentioned to me the need for broadband in public spaces, especially libraries. What movement is being made to make that a reality?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, in Haines City, every time that our roadways or our lines are open, we are making sure that our fiber is put in the ground to make sure that we get the appropriate broadband to certain areas. For example, our citizens, when they go to the library, we open it up for broadband. They can go there and they can get on, search the web. And it's important to all of our schools to have faster broadband connectivity. So in our city, we are spreading that broadband to every different portion of the city to make sure every one of our residents can get close to any of our facilities that doesn't have broadband that can connect to do different things, search for jobs, do homework from the colleges and the schools. So we're proactively, aggressively, I would say, putting in all of our fiber optic and broadbands on every line that comes open when the developers is out there developing. We're making sure that that fiber is in the ground to run that broadband. So we are very aggressive in broadband.
Excellent. Mayor Watts, the term smart community is often mentioned. How is Fort Meade trying to make that transition?
Well, that's just recently, I'm working now, thank you. It just recently come up and we're starting to look into programs to get Fort Meade as a smart city. We're at the minor steps now, with stepping stones, working our way, and I think there's going to be some discussions with Bartow, hopefully, about y'all's pilot project and your fiber inclusives. So I'm here to listen to ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Kehoe, talk to us about your broadband initiative.
Actually, we're starting to look into it, and although I believe it was like 5 years ago, Polk Vision was actually supposed to look into broadband, and I was selected to represent Lake Hamilton, and it appears that has not come around yet. But it's something that I think everyone in all the communities need to look at, mainly to get that type of system in place, mainly for families for the future.
Thank you. So the dreaded two words in Tallahassee is home rule. I know you all are of like minds that Tallahassee should not interfere with local decisions. Mayor Foltz, you are on the Florida League of Cities Advocacy Committee, and Mayor West, you are on the League's Board of Directors. In an effort to combine two topics here, how is the relationship with Polk County's legislative delegation, and can you think of, and I can think of one, but are there any instances where it makes sense for legislators to weigh in on local issues?
I know that it has been very hard for us as municipalities to maintain our autonomy as far as ensuring that we have a voice in what takes place. In the past, we have fought vehemently to keep from having unfunded mandates pushed down upon us, and then us having to find some type of finances in order to carry it forward. We, as local leaders, are closest to our community, closer to our communities than the people in Tallahassee. And for them to say that they know what's best for our cities without even consulting us or talking with us about it, I think it's ludicrous. We need to take a look at the fact that we are the ones that are going to be ultimately responsible for what takes place in that municipality. Therefore, we should have a bigger say in what happens in that municipality. Some of the things that happen at a state level to where it's going to be a level playing field for everybody, some of those things are absolutely mandatory to take place. But when it comes down to local decision making on local decision issues, local issues, we need to have that say-so. Now, I've been in Tallahassee every year since I've been with the Florida League of Cities, advocating during the time of the legislative sessions. And sometimes we actually make some great inroads because some of the legislators, they've got so much on their plate to read and so much on their plate to talk, to actually vote on when they get on that floor, that sometimes they don't know how it's going to affect us at the municipal level if we don't go to them and talk with them and let them know the effect of it and let them know how we possibly can handle it better at that local level. And I think that some of them really are listening to what's taking place. But others, if they have their minds made up and they have their own agenda, when they go in there, we're like spitting in the wind. It's going to come back in our faces every time we go up and talk with them about it. But home rule is something that's very important and something that we'll never stop fighting for.
Commissioner Braswell, any follow-up comments about home rule? And are there any specific issues you would like the 2021 legislative session to address that would have a positive impact on our county?
Yeah, I think we've made it clear where we stand on home rule for the last few years. But I will say this, what has changed for us, what we realize, of course, we have the Florida Association of Counties, you've got the League of Cities. You know, there are voices in Tallahassee to a degree, but there's nothing better than to go one-on-one, go to your legislator's office now, don't wait till the fall, don't wait till the session, don't wait till Polk County days, go there now. If you've got concerns, better yet, ask them, what's on your plate that might affect me down the road? We find that approach, and it was kind of a 180-degree turn from how the county was approaching this. But we're getting cooperation, understanding. You know, I don't believe, just like a lot of your constituents believe you have motives to do what you do, I don't believe our state legislators have motives to mess with us as counties and cities. They're doing what they think is best or what someone has told them is best for the state, for the county, and the city. They just need to hear our voice. And that has been the real problem, I think, between Polk County and our legislative delegation. They just haven't heard our voice. And when you get to know them personally, you know, it changes everything. And believe it or not, I think they really do want to hear from us. But they've got their job, we've got our job, and we've just got to make the effort, take the time to go do it. And I think that would work. What was the second part of the question?
Is there any issues for the upcoming session that could impact our county?
Well, we've got our list of wants from our delegation. Obviously, sales tax, COVID-19, this is an unknown. For all of us, where the money's going to come from. You know, we're sitting back anticipating budget cuts. We want our delegation to share with us what they see when they see it, where this money's not going to come from. Things like housing, we all know the housing boom has not missed a beat in COVID-19. Property taxes, which we derive most of our income from, is who knows, but right now it doesn't look like it's going to be impacted too severely. Other issues that we have concerns about are behavioral health. Once the county passed the indigent sales tax, it's freed up a lot of money for a lot of things. But the behavioral health, we're seeing more issues. As you've heard the sheriff say many times before, basically the largest psych ward in the county is the county jail. And it's not overwhelming, but it's certainly an issue that we can't take our eye off of. We've got to funnel more resources into it. Water, we've already talked about. Transportation, I didn't chime in on that, but I do want to say one thing. We believe Tom Phillips is doing a fantastic job. The expansion into the northeast part of the county is important, linking up with the links or however he's going to manage that. I know there's been some issues there. We think that's vital to Polk County. Linking to the rail system is very important. We've made public safety a priority issue because our fire department and rescue, which affects a lot of you, obviously the ambulance affects everybody and the fire rescue affects some. We fell way behind on that. We've tried to squeeze a few dimes out of Tallahassee for equipment and the like, but we don't anticipate seeing that, but we'll keep asking and see what happens. A subject for us that we're going to, we've written some draft legislation that we hope can be modified and considered this session. Has to do with unrecorded subdivisions. I don't know if this is an issue on the outskirts of any of your cities, but we have 22 ghost subdivisions in the county. River Ranch would be a good example that we all are aware of. River Ranch is fairly formal and an organization that kind of minds itself. We also have one in the northwest part of the county called Rancho Benito. And if you're not familiar with that, it is a lawless, crazy, wild place that is causing a lot of issues in the county. But those are two, and there's 20 more. And some of them are probably on your outskirts of your cities. And the way these things come about, just if you don't know about them, in the state of Florida, I can buy a 1 acre lot and I can sell that lot to 1,000 people and give them a 1,000th share if I want to. And in these unrecorded subdivisions, if that lot sits in the middle, and you've got them all around you in Polk City, if that lot sits in the middle and it's never been surveyed, basically that gives me access to all the lots. So these guys are coming in, they're selling thousands and thousands of 1,000th of a deed to these people, turning them into big recreation areas that there's just craziness going on. So we're trying to rein this in. It's not just a Polk County problem, it's all over the state, but it's becoming a real big issue for us. And then what you just talked about, unfunded mandates. Again, we're talking to our delegation now rather than wait. We've appointed Rick Wilson to be sort of our liaison to meet with them on a regular basis, and that seems to be working out. But, the session is the session. We'll see. And one more. I'd really be interested in your takes, you guys' take on this. The county spends somewhere around $300,000 on legal ads every year between the clerk, the tax collector, and the BOCC. And I know there's ways to post legal ads that we can keep people from really seeing them if we want, and we can put them where everybody sees them if we want. What we want to see is the state to change the regulations on this to allow the county to have a legal ad website, which would cost us virtually nothing, would cost you virtually nothing, whatever, some minimal charge, that it would be the repository of all the legal ads for the county. And that way, it would save us $300,000. I don't know what it would save you, but it would also mean that if you want to find out where the legal ads are and there's something you're looking for, this is the place to go. You don't have to go hunting in this paper or that paper or this paper. So that's what we're going up there asking. We'll see what we get.
Mayor Dantzler, when we spoke, you mentioned the focus in Tallahassee should be on the county needs rather than the respective cities. Do we do a good job of collaboration amongst the mayors to make sure our wish lists are met during the legislative sessions?
Well, what I meant by that, Matt, was we need to all, I need to be aware of what everybody is interested in Tallahassee. You know, I'm wearing a Polk State thing because I'm a big fan of Polk State. We need to all be aware of what the needs are for Polk State. And when we go to Tallahassee, Winterhaven has 2 different lobbyist firms. And oftentimes we're up there and we're sitting down with legislatures or we're giving our lobbyists instructions on what we want to do. If I know what is really important to Joe over here in his community and we can advocate for him, no harm, no foul. I mean, it's nothing that we're competing for. I use this building as a good example. It took us 3 years to get this building from the state because it was excess property, whereas if we had all been working together, we probably could have gotten it quicker, but we were up there sort of the lone wolf saying, we want Normail Hall. So if we can all sort of advocate together for things, when we go up to Tallahassee Day, or like what you said, when we're meeting with our legislatures, now is the time to be doing that. And I'm aware of what everybody else's issues are. It's not a problem for me to say, hey, you know, Haines City is really trying to get some turn lanes on Highway 27. And if they're hearing it from us and they're hearing it from Haines City, Auburndale's, you know, saying the same thing, before long, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, the more we're talking about it. So I think we, as mayors, can help our communities if we are aware. Now, if we're competing for something, that's a little different thing, but most oftentimes we're not competing. We're trying to get something very specific like Normail Hall. This has nothing to do with Bartow. They could care less whether we get this or not, so why would they not try to help us get it? And we would do the same thing for other communities. So, and I think we need to all support Polk. You know, I meet with Angela every year to understand what's important to them, and we need to try to help them as much as we can because they're always fighting for dollars, particularly down in Lake Wales. It's just no way to run a school, and they never know when they're going to have enough money to keep their schools open. So let's be aware of what's important to these guys as well. So that was what I was talking about.
Question to piggyback after that. When after Joe, I'll have a comment for Mayor Dantzler in reference to this issue, but I'll allow Joe to go first.
I'm really having a hard time hearing you if you're asking me a question.
No, I wasn't asking you a question. I said that I have a comment that I want to make, but
Okay,
I want
okay.
Joe to go first. I see you raise his hand, and then I'll come back with my comment.
I've been trying. The city managers get together every month and talk. They can. We can't. I've been trying to get together. I want the mayors to be able to get together, maybe on a monthly basis or as much as the city managers get together to talk about their cities. And I've always been told, oh no, sunshine law, and I fight them. I say, no, it is not the same collegial body talking about something that will come before the mayors to vote upon. That's basically the essence of the sunshine law. And they say, no, it's too risky, you're all going to get in trouble. I would love to have a meeting like this once a month. I don't know how to do it, but I absolutely agree with what Brad is saying. If we can collectively advocate for something, it would certainly support that particular issue more than the one person going after it, as he used the Normail Hall as an example. There's no reason in the world why we can't help him get that done. And there's no reason in the world why all my fellow mayors shouldn't be able to help me to get something done.
Mayor West?
Yes, quickly, and thank you for that, Joe, and you're absolutely right. I think that is important, and it's very imperative that the mayors or either some representative from your municipality get together because individually we're poor, but collectively Polk County is rich. So, and we're meeting today. So what's the difference from meeting outside of a meeting like the Mayors Roundtable? So we should be able to do that. But my comment is that, and I agree with Mayor Dantzler, that collectively we should be advocating for each municipality. When we go to Tallahassee, use as an example, you know, Winterhaven may have 5 city councilmen, city commissioners there representing just Winterhaven. fighting for Winterhaven. Auburndale may have 5 there advocating for Auburndale. Haines City may have 2 advocating for Haines. That's not the way it should work. We should be advocating for Polk County. It's one county. It's one Polk County in the state of Florida. Haines City has been fighting for years to help Polk State College put a campus in East Polk County. The reason we can't get that done because it's only Haines City fighting. And they continually keep cutting the budget and not allowing that to happen. Polk County and the Ridge of Polk County is now putting a new high school in Davenport. They have Ridge Community High School. They have Haines City High School. Those high schools are bigger than some of the municipalities here in Polk County. But we can't get a Polk State College on the east portion of Polk County because we're not all fighting together. We can't be like crabs in a bucket. We can't be pulling each other down. We got to be working together. If we don't work together, we're going to be stagnant. We're not going anywhere. And that's why our state legislators are not listening to us, because we're not on one accord. And I think we should be. So from this day, when we go to Tallahassee again, I will encourage my fellow mayors here to get with the Haines City, get with Polk State College, and let's advocate together to put a campus on East Polk. We're losing a lot of our students to Poinciana, to a college called Valencia Community College in Poinciana, and there are Polk County students going there because there is no school, no college on the east side of Polk County. It's crazy.
But we've got Polk State College in Lake Wales.
In Lake Wales, yeah.
And we have to fight every year.
That's right.
To keep them from cutting
That's
funding
right.
or even shutting that school down.
Take your mask down, Mayor. I want to hear what you say about that. Take your mask down. I want to hear what you have to say.
We have to fight every year to try to keep the funding there in Lake Wales. And that's the only one that we've got on the east side that's actually receiving students from all over that area. Mm-hmm. And any time that we have to go in, because it's a line item, and that line item can be vetoed at any time. But if we can get off the line item and get into regular funding for that school, we won't have to fight every year to do it. The arts portion of that school was completely obliterated a couple of years ago. They took the $2 million out of that, and they had to get rid of the arts portion of it. And my understanding is that some of the legislators thought that the whole school there in Lake Wales was all about the arts, and they wanted to shut the whole thing down. But yet we went up and fought once again. And Dr. Falconetti, she is fighting as hard as she possibly can to keep everything up above board and offer the greatest opportunities that Polk State College actually can, in order to make sure every student has an opportunity to get that education at an affordable rate. And another campus on the east side would not hurt, because you've got many people, like you said, that are going to other facilities in order to get that. But if you've got people who are having to walk, that don't have transportation, people that live in your city, some aren't going because they don't have the transportation to go. That's why we are glad that we've got something there in Lake Wales, or we would have to come to Winterhaven, to the campus there, or over to Lakeland, to the campus there. And many of these students are students who are not financially well off. Therefore, I think we need to fight as a unit for Polk State College all over, to keep them up and going and giving the best and the most affordable education to all of our citizens.
Amen.
Amen.
Felt like that.
Mayor Mutz, you were vocal to me about the rating of the Sadowski Fund and the need to stop frivolous public records requests. Are you confident this can be achieved?
Well, it's a matter of focus. You know, if we think about how we solve problems and what really solves problems within our communities, we can't pick a single point. So I think a little bit like this. It's many points that we have to work on together. Jobs are the number one thing that provide problem-solving solutions for us as a county. Education to support those jobs. Workforce housing for those people to live in, for filling those jobs. The Sadowski Fund specifically created for the purpose of affordable housing solely as its mandate when it was created. And with unfunded mandates and the rating of the Sadowski funds, it is ludicrous to think that state legislators are doing what they should do within the venue of their own budgets. They're not. We have affordable housing, that affordable housing fund created because the greatest need we're going to have to be able to start this matrix at the top again with providing jobs is for people to have affordable places to live. We can create jobs without any place for them to live, and it's like broadband. We wouldn't expect a company to come to our communities and not have water available to them or electricity available to them. Broadband in our cities is just the same kind of utility need on a long-term basis. We cannot think differently. We are so data dependent that we just have to think we have electricity, we have water, we have education, we have affordable housing, we have broadband. Those things are just part of what we do to pour a footing of opportunity in the future. So for us to be tolerant of the legislators raiding the Sadowski funds without being incredibly offended by that effort as cities, I just think we need to rise and let them know that's not touchable. In fact, it's how can that fund grow even more than it already does. Because if we're going to be in the race to the population that is going to flee some of these higher COVID Northwest cities, or Northeast cities and Northwest to some degree, and Florida is that place, and we're going to have a desirable place to be able to live, the affordable housing is extremely important. So to answer your question, which I've done around the horn, is it doesn't matter if you create jobs if you don't have places for people to live that they can afford to live in. It doesn't matter, and you can't attract them anymore. So our pinch point will be that. I think as cities, and certainly Florida League of Cities has been wonderful in this effort, and our local legislatures at large have been supportive of this. We must make that an absolute non-vetoable mandate from our perspective.
Mayor Hatch, same question regarding changes to CRAs.
That's a sore subject.
That's why I called on you.
I'm a firm believer in CRAs and what they do. When Mulberry started the CRA process to get that started, I was a brand new mayor at that time and didn't know much about what CRAs were and how they worked and any of that. And I was asked if the way that Mulberry was lowering its tax rate was through a CRA. And I had to bite my lip because I did know that was not the case, because the monies for CRA don't really come to fruition until several years down the road. And we started ours 5 or 6 years ago, and now we're beginning to see some of that tax money come in through the CRA. And our city attorney has told us that even with the changes that the state is putting in place, which I wish they wouldn't do, that the city of Mulberry is okay till 2070 something. So I won't be around I won't have to worry about it. So, but no, I wish they'd leave the CRAs alone. It is a boon to the local community. It really is.
Thank you. All right, before we get into the last topic and we go into our audience questions, I did want to read you all an email that was sent to me from Representative Killebrew. It says, Matt, good morning. Please tell the mayors that monies are going to be tight in Tallahassee this session, but they should still submit their appropriations for the items they need. We never know when something is going to stick. So keep
Who was that from?
Representative Killebrew. All right, our final topic. Mayor West, you believe that issues, and this is behavioral health, you believe this issue starts with the training of law enforcement. Can you elaborate on that opinion?
Thank you again, Matt, for that question. As you all know my background, I spent 22 years in law enforcement, and I've dealt with a lot of behavior issues. And and we don't recognize the problem. The problem that we're having is that officers, and I say officer, law enforcement officers, are not trained enough to recognize a behavior issue, a mental illness issue, and they treat a mental illness issue as if it was a citizen that didn't have an issue. So the lack of training in the mental illness training, that's what caused a lot of our community issues that is currently going on now. When you see and you pick up the newspaper and you see where an officer is involved with a citizen because they probably wasn't trained enough to know how to properly handle that individual. So I'm encouraging, and our chief is doing a lot of that training, and I applaud him for that, because we recognize that a lot of our constituents that getting arrested, they have mental problems. They have mental issues. But if we don't learn, if we're not trained to learn how to deal with mental illness, we're going to continue to have front page of police brutality because they didn't handle a situation out of control, that was out of control. Example would have been, if you read the newspaper up in, I think it was Rochester, New York, where that guy, I think it was, a guy was naked in the street. That's a mental issue. You handle that issue different than you would an average citizen. But if you're not trained to know how to handle it, you're going to treat every one of those issues the same if you would if the person didn't have a mental problem. So I'm encouraging Polk County to make sure that we get together, make sure all our law enforcement, not just law enforcement, all of our city municipality employees are trained on how to deal with mental illness and deal with them at a different level, because they can walk into City Hall, come in with a gun. If you don't know how to handle that mental ill person, it's going to be chaos at the end of the day. So I think we need to be trained more in mental illness awareness than anything. It's more important.
Thank you. Mayor Shablum, you think the emphasis should be taken off the Polk County Sheriff's Office. What can you and your fellow mayors do to address this at the city level?
One of the things that the Department of Health produces every 3 to 5 years is what's called a community health assessment. It's a 4-part process, and in fact we had Polk Vision's help this year pulling it together with several other entities like Baycare and others. And for the first time, this assessment identified behavioral health as one of the top 3 critical factors influencing a community's overall health. And I was, Chairman Brasmell has touched on it, and Mayor West has touched on it. Mental health is one of those aspects that really is a systemic issue that touches so many other sectors. Joblessness, homelessness, poor educational issues can be tied back to things that ultimately reside in the realm of behavioral health, and so I agree with Mayor West that training is a component of it. Cities and municipalities have to get creative in the solutions that they're providing as it relates to resourcing and funding efforts to not just address things that at their core are likely to be behavioral health with law enforcement. We have a great sheriff. We're thankful to have the work that he does in our community, but what a disservice that we have not yet figured out a solution to divert the traffic out of our jails and into a place where people can have access to the kind of resources they need. My family has been touched personally by substance abuse and with mental health issues. And so one of the challenges that you end up with, if you're familiar with those types of scenarios, is it chicken or the egg? Are people having behavioral health issues, mental health issues, and then self-medicating with substance abuse, or have they fallen into a pattern of substance abuse that have led to ultimate behavioral and mental health challenges? And so in the Department of Health world, we refer to those types of problems as wicked problems, where there's not a single solution that's out there. There's not a single sector that can address those type of challenges. And it's only going to be because we partner together, yes, as municipalities, yes, as governmental entities, but also as we begin to engage every other sector that form the fabric of our community that will ultimately be able to make significant headway. And so I am thankful for Polk Vision's partnership in this effort, because until we figure out what it looks like to collectively pull on the strings that affect this problem, I don't know that we're going to see substantive change in that area.
Thank you. Commissioner Braswell, anything to add? I know you alluded to it earlier that there's a major fiscal commitment to the Sheriff's Office for the treatment of inmates.
Yeah, we've got about $7.5 million dedicated to a variety of diversion programs from Helping Hands. We've got a program after they've been released from jail. A lot of them are on psychotropic drugs. You know, they get released from jail, the drug's in, they just reoffend and they're right back in jail. We've got a program to follow up with them. You know, one thing we're trialing right now is, you know, we've got firemen and fire stations. They're not fighting fires all day and all night. So we've got a program where in their downtime, they go and they visit these people and they say, hey, are you taking your medications? How you feeling? A lot of times they just want somebody to talk to, somebody to confide in, somebody to steer them in the right direction. We haven't got, the program's only been in place about 9 months, so we really don't have any data back on how well it's working. But I think programs like that are inexpensive ways to avoid a big expense down the road, because when these guys commit crimes and they wind up in the jail, it's expensive, and it doesn't help anybody. And like I said, you know, we've got a variety of these programs. I do want to say one thing about the Sheriff's Office. I don't know if you guys know. There's about 19,000 police agencies in this country. The Polk County Sheriff's Office has more training accreditations than any of those 19,000 police agencies in this country. In other words, we have the most well-trained police force in America, right here in Polk County. Grady Judd, as you alluded to, we all know, you know, what a great guy he is. That's part of what has made his police department so good. They are well-trained. He understands the value of, you know, avoiding an arrest when you can, talk it out when you can, you know, do what you can to mitigate any further escalation. Those are emphasis items with him, and he's worked on it very hard, and I think it's paid off, because, you know, you don't hear a lot of the problems that you hear in some of these other cities in this county, and I think that's got a lot to do with it. You know, what the mayor said about a well-trained police force. It's critical for the community's confidence in the police force, the people that work for them, and it's vital that we stay on top of that. But just back on behavioral health, you know, this is always going to be a problem. We're never going to have enough money to solve it. It's always going to be an issue we're going to have to work on, and we are very open to new ideas, new ways of attacking the problem. And I want to throw in, I don't know if we're going to talk about PTSD specifically, but I want to. There's a guy right here in Polk County, and as I speak, I forget his name, but he has started a program called 022. Has anybody heard of it? You know, I spent 22 years in the military. I've got a lot of friends who have issues with PTSD. This guy's program, he's a former deputy sheriff here in Polk County, has done miraculous work for PTSD. Guys that have suffered for years. All have to come together collectively to work on behavioral health. But, you know, it's just a problem that we just have to deal with.
Thank you. So, mayors, that concludes my portion of the program. We'll now transition into questions from our virtual audience. So if you could use your signs, your red and the green, to let me know that you would like to talk to this topic, that would be helpful for me. Some of these questions are very similar in nature, so the audience out there, if I'm not asking your specific questions because one came in that was very similar. So we'll start. What can all the mayors and government do collectively as we continue to navigate social and economic issues? Mayor Mutz.
I think we must welcome the need to do so. So it's so easy for us to try and find a place to land on some of these matters and say that's our position, when in fact what we really need to be doing is a better job of listening well. I'm encouraged as I read the Ledger's 8-part series and the way that they're doing just this week, started Sunday. The way I know I'm encouraged by it is that as I read some of the recaps, it bothers me. It bothers me for lots of different reasons internally, some of which I want to create a defense for, others of which I'm just not aware of. And so I think what really becomes important in and the opportunities that we have within Polk County Sheriff's Office and our own police departments to be able to evidence greater interest and greater dedication to making sure people are honored equally. It's difficult to do that. Not everybody is going to be reasonable. We do have behavioral health issues. We understand all those things. Those are the exceptions. For the norm, what do we do to embrace these matters more willingly and less defensively? We're in an opportune moment, and I would hate to see us squander this opportunity. And each of us as cities can examine how we can do that better, and certainly as a county, we can lead in this as well. But this ought to be, we're in the center of the state, and we're a group of people that love people, generally speaking. We work well together, generally speaking. We don't fight each other. And we should be models of what can occur when we are also more intentional about making certain we do a better job of honoring everyone.
Mayor Fultz.
We do have a great opportunity now. And lessons from the past, we know that we cannot legislate affairs of the heart. Many people, the way they, and I love Sheriff Judd's approach to it, because I went out and I sat with one of the majors at the training center, and the approach that they're giving now is intentional relationships, educating people as to what's going on. When you see people that have been raised in a certain portion of society, and that's all they've ever experienced before in their lives, they cannot relate to people on the other side of that society. That's why building intentional relationships that change the heart and the mind of individuals is going to be the way to get to this, and not legislate it. You can sign paper all day long, but that paper is not going to be the answer or the solution to what we need. And many people are staying in their own little corners, in their own little fiefdom, not wanting to get involved. But whether they want to get involved or not, they are involved. Because when we look at our nation and see all of the tragic disturbances that are going on around us, it's going to take all of us working in concert with one another in order to quell all of this, in order to get us to a point to where we can be united going forward in order to resolve the issues that are before us. Some people don't want to resolve them because I think they like controversy. But I don't think that's anyone in here, I hope not, because controversy is not healthy for anyone when it comes down to social justice. It's not healthy for anyone who is looking to make sure that every one of their citizens has the same opportunity and the same chance at life that we have. I spoke with someone yesterday, and he said that I was raised in a small white community in, I think he said in Nebraska. He moved to North Carolina, where he was the minority, a white individual who was going to school with mostly African Americans. And from that end, he began to build intentional relationships with them, and he learned more about that other culture by being immersed in that culture than he ever would have by someone trying to teach him how to do it. So if all of us would immerse ourselves in a culture that we're not familiar with and begin to understand what that culture is all about, I think that we could be the examples. We could set the example. We could move forward with people seeing what could be accomplished by that. So legislation is not the way to do it completely, but changing the hearts and minds of individuals one person at a time, if we can, will get us to that point.
Mayor Shablum?
Yeah, thank you. The concept of equity and justice has become an increasing priority for the city of Bartow, so much so that in our strategic planning session that took place in June and July of this year, we identified it as a top priority for the city. What I think we've come to conclude is that simply because the city of Bartow has not experienced significant public displays of outrage or racism that have hit the national media, it would be foolish for us to assume that it's not there, or that we would be exempt going into the future from those types of actions. And so, Commissioner Longworth and myself have really committed our efforts in the city to at least begin the conversation. You know, and I think that if nothing else, that's a great place to start, is admitting that you may not have all the answers, but that you're willing to listen. And so to that end, Commissioner Longworth has sponsored one already, and we have our second one on October 13th, a virtual town hall to address and just have frank and honest dialogue about some of the issues that are facing the city of Bartow. In our last town hall, we identified hiring practices specifically within the city, the fact that the makeup of our workforce does not really adequately reflect the makeup of our community. Excuse me. And so what are some meaningful steps we can take in that direction to remedy it? We also had some very great conversations around our police force and the tactics that are being used or not being used in terms of our policing efforts. And so I'm very grateful to be a part of a city willing to have those kind of uncomfortable conversations, willing to admit that maybe our track record isn't perfect, but also a firm commitment to move forward in such a way as to make Bartow an amazing place for all of its residents to live, maybe not just the people who look like me. And so that's been one of the most enjoyable, if you can apply that word to something that is kind of loaded and heavy, but it's maybe exciting is the right word to say, that we're not afraid to shy away from these types of topics. And so I appreciate the question being asked.
Mayor West?
Yeah, quickly, and I want to say this, and I'll say it straight up, that we all are Americans. We all came to this country from someplace else. Majority of us know us wasn't born, ancestors wasn't born here. The problem with Americans is that we don't understand each other. Human diversity is the key. And I think that's going to be our main problem, that they don't understand my culture and I don't understand theirs. It becomes a conflict. Then we find ourselves in a conflict with each other race because we don't understand each other. I think now is the time for us to understand each other. And as a mayor, the couple of things that I've done to try to bridge the gap here, one example, to understand different culture, I do what we call, and this is credit to the Florida League of Cities, what we call coffee with the mayor. Coffee with the mayor is because I want to understand you. I want to know where you're coming from. I don't know you, but we are our brother's keeper. So I do that with the adults. So I go a little further because I don't understand kids these days. I'm at an age where, I can't relate to them as my kids or grandkids may be able to. So what I do there in the school system, I do cookies with the kids. I go in. I want to understand their train of thoughts, their thinking level. So I go a little further. So I go into the high school just to reach to the high school students. So we do a mock city commission meeting to understand the issues and the concerns that we have at our high school level. We got to diversify ourselves as city council members. We can't sit at that podium every other Tuesday or Thursday night and think we understand these individuals. We don't understand them. So the diversity, getting out of that seat, going into your community, getting to know your community will probably help solve some of your key issues. So I'm preaching today human diversity training for all municipalities. And if they're doing it, great. If they're not, you need to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question. How do you feel about walking cities? Any plans to address your carbon imprint? Anybody want to tackle that one? Yes. How do you feel about walking cities? Any plans to address your carbon imprint? Mayor Butts?
I think we're probably all a little light on the planning on carbon imprint, but I do believe things like bike paths, walkability, Vision Zero for making certain we're protecting pedestrians adequately, as well as bikers, are all pieces and components of that. We are going to be a healthier nation if we do more physical exercise, and bike paths are a great, great way to be able to do that. ADA compliance with the ramping that we've been doing for years and for many multiple millions of dollars is certainly a piece of that for some of the citizens who can't physically walk. But we're a flat state that's spread out, and we do a lot of driving, and there's no question about that. If you go to Copenhagen, you can see the most people on a bike per capita of any place in the nation. The way they solve that problem is that they tax your second vehicle the same price in excise tax as the cost of the vehicle. So families have one vehicle, so you learn to ride your bikes more. So, those are kinds of the extremes of what happens in order to create a carbon footprint. But on a walkability basis today, making sure we make it easy to access downtown, connect spots together across the cities the best way we can, and do a great job with bike paths is probably our short-term best solution.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mayor Daley?
One of the things that we've done in Lake Alfred, and I would encourage all of the commissions to do, would be to look at your land development codes. We are recently rewriting our development codes and putting in those kind of things that help with walkability, multimodal trails. Where we did our master plan for our Parks and Rec this last year. We also have a new downtown core land development code that really helps with connectivity and encourages that ability to be able to walk and ride in different ways. And of course, the sidewalks have to be part of all of your land development codes and ways to make people be able to get from one place to the other without driving. And mass transit.
Okay, next question. We have seen our city's greatest advocates, the Chambers, hit significantly during COVID. What are you doing to help?
What are we doing to help what?
The Chambers. Mayor?
In Auburndale, how we're helping the chambers and they're helping us is that we're sharing information. As spoken earlier, one of the most important forms of information we have is our Facebook pages in our cities. And the Greater Auburndale Chamber of Commerce we share all our information with them, and they in turn post it, and that gives us double the exposure. That's one of the things that we do for our chamber that I think has the biggest bang for our buck.
Excellent. Mayor Mutz?
Our chamber worked with us to create an initiative called Reopen Lakeland, and it's been really a wonderful group of 30 people that kind of volunteered in this arena from different business aspects and organizational aspects to accelerate the ways that we can help small business come along more quickly. We have Bridge Local, who also works kind of like a smaller business chamber, and they do likewise. And we're actually having those two organizations cooperate really well with each other in creating new initiatives. And so I love to see that kind of thing because it gives a voice to our small businesses. And that's really where we heard the Mask Up Fast initiative from, was because businesses were telling us people aren't coming out without them. Get the masks on and they'll show, which is what happened. And in the meantime, we went from our 17% positivity down to 5.7% positivity yesterday. And that is a total function of the masking timing. So when you're listening to your business as well, and the chamber has the opportunity to be that conduit for us, and then we're turning around and sort of providing tools to them that the businesses are requesting, and then communicating those things out, that's one of the ways we can really make them more vital as they make us a safer community in which to live.
Mayor Hatch?
Thank you. Mulberry is a very close-knit community, and I'm going to follow that up. It's not a closed-knit community, and that we do a lot of communicating, like Mayor Popsicle said. One of the things we were doing as a chamber, and I'm a past president of the Mulberry Chamber, we used to have these monthly breakfasts every once a month. And because of COVID, that has stopped. But what the chamber has gone to now is they're doing a Facebook Live show once a month, and it's been recently at a city facility. One month it was at the Gym Theater, which is an old theater that was operational back in the 50s when I was a little kid, and the city's redoing that theater. They had another one today, and it's at a park that the city had redone. So the chamber is alive and active in Mulberry, and the city's helping. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, quickly, I'll rebuttal on something. I have a comment to make in reference to the chamber, if I may.
Sure.
One thing I'll say about our chamber in Haines City, the chamber in every city that has a chamber, they are key to your city. They're like the grease in the middle of the machine. They keep the city going when it comes to small businesses and going out and getting those small businesses into your community, into your city. So a lot of times, very imperative that we work with our chamber. What the city of Haines City has done, even in spite of COVID-19, we have found ways to continue to help finance and fund our chamber. We allow them to use all of our city facilities to host their events at no charge. We don't charge our chamber. So we have to establish some type of business relationship with your chamber. If you don't have that, your city will not grow when it comes to small businesses. Now, keep in mind that your EDC is just important as your chamber, because your chamber is focusing on the small businesses, but your EDC is focusing on the larger business. So if you don't take care of one and don't take care of the others, then you still running into a brick wall. So we are supporting both our chamber and our EDC, both financially, to make sure that we get the businesses that we're after to come into our city limits of Haines City. Thank you.
Great point. Next question. Have any cities facilitated or implemented Citizens Advisory Committee? Mayor Dantzler.
Yes, we've instituted several citizens advisory committees. One has to do with the arts. We have an arts advisory committee. We just started a a digital smart city advisory committee. This is to, we're putting these big bellies all around Winterhaven so people can drop off their garbage and also get internet access. And the Smart City Advisory Committee is something that we've just started to provide high-tech information and high-tech recommendations to the City Commission that we can actually do, and these big bellies are one of the products of those. But we also have one for trails, and Mayor Muss was talking about bike trails and walking trails. That's a big thing for us. Connectivity. We're trying to connect. We've got so many trails. We're trying to connect them all. We've got gaps in sidewalks and whatnot, and so we formed a trails committee, our advisory committee, to do nothing but try to help us figure out a way to help our transportation and connectivity in community Winterhaven. So we use that quite often, yes.
Mayor Foltz?
One of the advisory committees that we are looking at now is one that was implemented some years ago, but it seems that it had fallen by the wayside. With all of the things that are going on in our nation today, and with the media hyping everything up on the racial divide and on the community policing, we reconstituted or re-implemented the Police Advisory Committee in order to make certain that our citizens have some input on what's taking place with the police and the actions that they take throughout the community. We have a great police department, and I believe that every police department in this nation may have at least one bad actor that's part of their group. And to identify that bad actor and to remove them would be bringing us closer to having a better community police relationship. And I think that advisory committee is going to bring us to that point. That advisory group, should I say the commissioners, as we were putting this advisory group together, they wanted oversight, and we'll never give oversight to an advisory group on our police department. That's FDLE that would take oversight on something like that. But to have those citizens give input on how the citizens are treated, how they are approached, how their communities are being policed, how the officers actually get out and present themselves, get out of those cars and present themselves to that community, showing themselves friendly. It's building relationships once again, I think, is what we're looking at. But that advisory committee, I think, is going to be very helpful in order to resolve any type of questions or something that, that might be a gray area for someone who thinks that they know what has transpired, but yet they're just listening to someone else. And then they will have an opportunity to come in and see the facts behind what's taking place and possibly bring about a better understanding between our police department and our communities.
Thank you. Yes, Mayor.
I'm just sitting here thinking about what's changed, that we have to have all of these oversight groups trying to have oversight and everything else. Now, I'm 82 years old, okay, and I had a business. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, if it hasn't come through in my little accent here. But I was brought up in Brooklyn, and there in those years, I was a street kid, okay? I mean, we went outside every day. We were in the street. We had every couple of blocks was a park. We had outside, we had basketball. We had all of the problems that we have today. What we had, what worked for the neighborhoods, was we had neighborhood policing. That cop would walk this is in neighborhoods and on the business avenues and streets. We would have the same beat cop who would walk there for their 8-hour tours, whatever they were. They knew us by name. They knew how to grab us around the neck and kick us in the butt when we were doing something. They knew our parents. Our parents knew them. They knew the store owners. They knew everybody who worked in the store. They knew who shopped in the store. So what was the difference? We had a relationship and respect for the police, and we just didn't have these confrontations. I guess maybe the workers' respect for the police and maybe they for us. I'm not sure if that's what's missing here. It's just the relationship that you had, and you knew how to behave. And some things changed. I was speaking before to George Hatch. I think it all started when, to be honest with you, it started when we stopped acknowledging a simple thing like a Pledge of Allegiance in school, and maybe when we moved away from God in our lives, we started all of these problems. I firmly believe that, and I think we've done that. And we have to overcome that, and we have to get back to we have to get back to having God in our lives more than it was. We were brought up to go to church. We were brought up, we went with our families, we went on our own, and if I didn't get to church, I'd hear about it from my mother and father. We're missing some of those things that I so much am trying to always put into my life. They're gone.
Mayor
And I
Matz.
think we need them.
Well, I want to piggyback on that just very quickly. Our nation was settled with a moral compass. It was settled as a nation to provide for religious freedom, but it was settled with a Judeo-Christian ethic. And I think less important are conservative and liberals. What's more important is really right and left to understand what's happened. If you're looking towards that center of our nation's settling as being more of a right position, it assumed a moral compass. There is a body growing in our nation today that thinks truth is absolutely relative, and it's my opinion, and it's my social consciousness that I want to have or not. And an absence completely of a moral, it's not that it's a different moral compass, there is no moral compass. And so what we see happening today, and it goes into the areas of behavioral health and many other things, are the fallout of when people start to rely on themselves alone for solutions in a world they can't even explain in terms of its creation. And when we think we are smart enough to make photosynthesis, we will be able to feed everybody without planting crops. We'll just use that as a scientific technique, but we can't even model what's been created. And yet we talk about it as random, and it's not. And so if we want to lead well, we have to make certain we're supporting those people who are leading with moral compasses that provide the kinds of protection for our nation that our nation was birthed in.
Mayor Matz, Mayor LaCascia, thank you for those comments. We're about, oh, sorry. No, okay. We are about out of time, but I do want to come full circle here. So we'll end with where we started. This last question is for you, Mayor Dantzler. What is the city doing to protect its lakes? What is the city doing to clean up its lakes?
So the city of 100 Lakes is what Winterhaven's known for, and it's a real big part of our life, of our economy, of our everything. And so we do spend a lot of money trying to protect our lakes. Lake runoffs, we have just down here on Lake Howard, for example. If you guys haven't seen the big dock that was built, there's this big, huge dock down here behind McDonald's. Right beside that is a runoff place that's treated with alum and to help keep the lakes. We have many of these. They look like parks. They look like catwalks. You can go out there and exercise, but they're actually recharge areas. They're spill-offs. They're stormwater spill-offs to protect the lakes, because we understand in Winterhaven how important our lakes are, particularly the chain of lakes. But not as much the chain, but the chain is the one that's sort of the poster child for the lakes in Winterhaven. But we understand how important it is, and we're using all the modern technologies and all the tools in the bag to try to protect our lakes, and it's working. We've got some lakes that still need some work, but by and large, the lakes are getting cleaner, and they're full, and the canals are good. You can take your boat through the chain if you want to. Sometimes the lakes the canals are too small, they're too shallow, and you can't even get your boat through. But that's not the case now. So And we have a canal commission, which is very active, led by Roger Griffiths, and he's got a commission that's a duly elected board by the citizens of Winterhaven, and they're a very active group as well. So, but it starts off with recognizing that what an asset the lakes are, particularly the chain of lakes for Winterhaven, and we do recognize that. So,
Thank you. Well, Mayors, Commissioner, we've come to the end of our program. Thank you for your time. We hope you found the discussion informative and a valuable use of your time. A big thank you to the team at PGTV and who provided audio and recorded today's program. A sincere thanks to the Polk Vision staff, Kim Long, Talifa Bean, Brooke Dresser, and Kirsten Sheehan. And to all of you watching virtually, thank you for the vision. Be safe, be well, and we hope to see you next year in person for the 11th Annual Mayors Roundtable. Good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mayors, I think they would like to do a photo, a socially...